Post, James Dolan, is being urged by an activist investor. That's what we call someone who is not necessarily doing a hostile takeover, but an activist investor, someone who already has stock in MSG, so he is already at the table, and he is encouraging Dolan to sell minority shares of the Knicks to potentially boost the team's value. Brian, he wants him to, spin off the sports teams from like Radio City Music Hall and the other things MSG owns, which would be the first step to selling the team, right?
Yeah, well, he's been at odds with some MSG investors and the board for a while. They criticized him last year for being overpaid and spending too much time on his jazz than actually running
Dolan.
the team. Yeah.
Dolan's been criticized?
Yeah.
I haven't caught that.
The thing about it is, like, what they're basically asking for is there to be a minority owner, to take on a minority owner. And the Knicks are worth somewhere between $3 and $4 billion. You can't be an owner even in a minority share in the NBA unless you have at least 1%. That means you're talking about an incredible amount of money to have no power. In this day and age, significant minority ownership, people only want to buy it if they have a path towards ownership. So while Knicks fans who want James Dolan to sell may get excited about this, I don't think this is necessarily going to result in what they're looking for.
Not happening.
These numbers
going nowhere. He's going nowhere. Look, if you didn't like the last iteration of the Windows whatever, Bill Gates ain't going nowhere. Like, he owns this. This is who he is.
Yes.
He's gotten it from his father. He didn't necessarily work to get to this spot. Got it from his daddy, and it's okay. That's why I'm 6'7". My dad was tall, right? Some things you just inherit.
The pressure's on, but he ain't gonna crack.
He ain't going to crack. He ain't going nowhere.
By the way, can we throw up the values of those franchises again? Because I just want to remind everyone, when you complain about how much money the players make, look at what the owners have and how much those franchises have appreciated in the last 10 years.
Next time we have that graphic, I want you to put what they paid for those teams underneath.
Right?
Because
the
appreciation is absurd. Now, I understand that there's been years, but the buses, what they paid for the Lakers in, the 70s and I think it was in the 70s, it was like $100 million, $50 million. It was something crazy.
Even the Celtics on that list that changed hands relatively recently compared to, say, the buses or the Knicks franchise, they have made a tremendous amount of money.
The Warriors sold less than a decade ago for $450 million. If you were to throw in the arena that they now own,
'cause they own it.
That property is probably in the neighborhood of $4 to $5 billion.
Jeez.
That owning that. That's in less than 10 years.
If any of you guys had $400 million sitting around 10 years ago, you should have put it into the Warriors, is basically the lesson there. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.